Hey everybody, I've been reading this book called The 7 Generations and the 7 Grandfather Teachings by James Vugolich Kagegaba. And I came across a chapter in it from part 2. It's called Debwewin, or Truth, and I thought it went really well with what's going on in Clinton, Missouri as far as their quote-unquote homeless problem. And so I thought I would read an excerpt from this book. Maybe it will help somebody and help the people realize that we need compassion and love and care for our fellow human beings, whether or not they have a shelter or roof over their heads or not. So here we go. I found an ancient ceremony called Debwewin, the Vision Quest. This ceremony is thousands of years old, but one account I found took place in the mid-19th century. One day, a young boy awoke in his lodge to his father holding 2 birch bark dishes. In one dish was mijim, food, berries, venison, wild rice, and corn. In the other dish was akanshe, or charcoal. The boy was presented a choice. If he wished to have a spiritual experience, he had to choose it on his own. No one can make him do it. No one can have an experience for him. If the boy chose breakfast, he would have been fed. But he did not. He chose the dish with charcoal. The old man picked up the charred piece of wood and marked his face with it several times. This practice is called makadeke. She or he blackens his or her face with charcoal. For the next 4 days and 3 nights, this child went without food and water in isolation on a mountain. If any of the villagers had seen this child with a charcoal on his face, they would have left him alone, rather than offer him traditional Ojibwe hospitality of food, tea, and conversation. They would leave him be, knowing he was seeking out a vision to guide his life. As the sun went down at the end of that first day, the child was cold, hungry, lonely, and probably thinking, my parents wouldn't just leave me here. His next questions would be, if I were to get food right now, where would I get it? Where would I get water? How would I get clothing? Where would I get shelter and fire? In facing these questions, he learns an important lesson in real time. What happens to a human being who does not have food, water, clothing, or shelter? They will certainly die. When European traders, pilgrims, and explorers traveled to northern Minnesota and North Dakota, the Indigenous people helped them survive in a land they found strange and harsh. The Ojibwe provided food, shelter, and expertise in hunting and navigation to the people who would go on to colonize the land, steal the land from them, displace them. Why would the Ojibwe help people who meant them harm? Because it's embedded in Indigenous spirituality to help those in need. For the rest of the child's life, after experiencing hunger, cold, and isolation, he would have real empathy for anyone seeking access to these basic human needs. He would be able to say truthfully, I too have faced hunger, cold, thirst, and loneliness. And if I can, I will help you alleviate those. So I just find that part very, it's what's lacking in our society today. We lack the compassion, the care, the love for each other, our fellow human beings. And we have forgotten that we are all interconnected, that we're all related because we all come from the earth, and everything that we need comes from the earth. Without it, none of us would have these basic things to live. So why are we depriving our fellow human beings of these basic rights, these basic things that everybody needs in order to live? All right, guys. Here in my part of the state of Missouri, there's a town called Clinton, Missouri, in west central Missouri. And they have had an ongoing discussion within the community online as far as the quote-unquote homeless problem, and people have been weighing in as far as their solutions, what they think should be done. And I might say that it has really saddened me to see all the kinds of comments on these posts, making excuses as far as why nobody is helping these people, especially the churches. When I brought up that, the churches, there's one on every street corner. People sit in those pews on the Sundays and pay their tithings and whatnot to these churches. Why are they not taking that money? Why are they not using the buildings and helping these people? And they still come at me with all kinds of excuses that, these people, they don't want help. We've offered to help and they don't want it. Or, they're just drug addicts that they've been dumped here from Kansas City for a drug program that's here in Clinton, and they just don't want any help. I keep hearing all these kinds of excuses. And one of the excuses one of the ideas here that I'm going to show you guys here in a second, threw up major red flags. And I know one local poLIEtician named Michael has been pushing for this type of thing to be constructed or in some way brought about in Henry County, Missouri. And so they held a meeting in the community on March the 11th, and I just came across this article today about it. And so we're going to get into this just a little bit. This is from the article, and I will tell you that Huey is quoted in this article, and he is part of Project Homeless of Clinton, Missouri. And so let's just read this little excerpt here. Without one, Huey says the group remains limited in what it can do beyond seasonal warming efforts and informal coordination with area partners. Now listen very closely to what he's quoted as saying here. The next step is a building, he said plainly during the discussion. Okay, in and of that self, it does not sound alarming in any way. But within the past month or so, there have been discussions online in the community Fedbook groups about, oh my gosh, what are we going to do about this homeless problem? They're everywhere, and we shouldn't have to see these people on the streets, and all kinds of horrible comments have been made about these people. They are human beings, and nobody is offering them help, right? Everybody just has excuses as far as, they're drug addicts. They've all been dropped off here from Kansas City, and they don't want help. People have offered them help, and they just don't want help. And they're just, basically scum of the earth, they say, but not in those exact words, okay? But that's how they are treating these people. And I brought up that, the local churches should be involved. The churches rake in however much money they get every week from the people that visit them. Why can they not utilize that money? Why can they not utilize their church buildings to house the people and help them? But no, the next step is a building. Okay, now I'm just connecting the dots here, guys. I'm going to show you guys a screenshot of one of the comments somebody in one of the community Fedbook groups posted. This is Victoria's solution. I've often wondered if a community can build for ICE detainees Why can't we do a homeless shelter? Either one will need a staff to run it. And you can do daily drug tests for residents with them putting in labor hours. Just let that sink in for a moment. What does that sound like to you? Sounds like a slave labor camp. And then you will find Darren Huey, who was quoted in that newspaper article. He says, Victoria, Project Homeless Clinton is trying to do just that. Let me just go back here. The next step is a building. You guys, let's put 2 and 2 together here. If we do not put a stop to this, they are going to come after anybody who disagrees with their views. And these are white Christian nationalists who support Trump. And I made a video about this on Sunday, March the 16th, about this very thing. They do not care about anybody but themselves. They look down upon the oppressed, the poor, the downtrodden, the people who are suffering from trauma and abuse, people who turn to things like drugs to escape the trauma and abuse that probably these white Christian nationalists have put them through. But I won't, just make assumptions here like these people do. But it's very concerning. It's very concerning that this is the type of mindset that is now allowed. This is the type of dialogue and verbiage that we are allowing into our community spaces. And everybody is okay with it. They will not stop at just the homeless. They are going to come for the disabled, anybody that they say has a mental illness. Next, they will come for people like me who are speaking out against this, who disagree with this.